Time now for Back Pages tonight here on Sky Sports News, bringing you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers. Heading into a big weekend. Joining us tonight, ESPN senior writer Mark Ogden and TalkSPORT presenter Shebahn Aherne back with us. Welcome to you both. Let's quickly run through the Back Pages. Mail has Rashford warning and Max handed community service order for swearing. That's Max Verstappen. Times last shot at glory is the headline. Anthony Joshua looking to be a three-time world champion. Ten Hag's challenge to Rashford and Verstappen's community service for using F-word. The Sun, smelling blood. AJ, the fans want Clarent, I will perform, and Arteta urges his hitman to land a KO blow. Strike back again around the players' fatigue issue. That's Pep. Mikel, meanwhile, is set on statement win at City. Telegraph front page, as we saw before the break, clash of the heavyweights. Haaland there against Gabriel. Those two will be close quarters surely on Sunday afternoon. The boxing is mentioned at the bottom as well. Express back page, we need strikers. Again, the potential for players to strike over an overload of games. Arteta tells Arsenal it's time to go big at City, and Joshua is primed for must-win, quote-unquote, bloodbath. Star has power and the glory. Joshua Dubois building up to their London showdown at Wembley. 96,000 going to be there. Strike force again. That story around potential player strikes and Guardiola pictured. Shebahn, let's start with the back page of the Mail. Rashford warning is the headline. Erik Ten Hag, after a great week for Marcus Rashford, 3 goals in 2 games, saying that he must get his life right to hit top form and revealing that was what was wrong last season. How helpful or not is this, the timing, Shebahn?
I actually think when you listen to the press conference in full, it's a fairly positive message that Erik Ten Hag has given towards Marcus Rashford. And I think we've got to give a bit of credit to Rashford as well, because last season he was not at the races. And of course, we knew what happened off the pitch as well. He didn't show up to training. What happened in Belfast should have stayed in Belfast. Turns out Rashford stayed in Belfast, didn't make it back for training. You know, we knew that he was off it. He doesn't get selected for the Euros. But actually, I think it's been so impressive to see him score 3 goals in 2 games in 4 days. That's something that we haven't seen from for quite some time. And Erik Ten Hag said that his lifestyle wasn't right. He lacked professionalism last season. I don't think this will be the first time that Rashford has heard this. So fingers crossed it continues for him. It is up to him to sort that out. And it looks like for now he's doing that for himself.
Mark, how do you think Marcus Rashford will receive it after a brilliant week for him on the pitch? We know that his team had briefed about ex-players upsetting him in terms of his criticism. What do you think this will do from the manager?
Yeah, listen, I don't think Marcus Rashford and Erik Ten Hag have got the closest relationship, shall we say. I think that it's a professional relationship, but I wouldn't say it's a friendly one in the sense that they would spend too much time together away from the ground. But I think it's a professional relationship, and I think Marcus Rashford will accept that Erik Ten Hag as the manager has issues with how he trained last season, how he played. I do think that Marcus might feel it's a little bit over the top at times, that whether it's Erik Ten Hag's grasp of English or it's just very direct. I think sometimes a manager needs to protect his players a little bit more and just kind of keep it in-house. And I think Marcus Rashford, his people might feel that at times it's been a little bit too much out in the public. But ultimately, it's down to Marcus Rashford. If Marcus Rashford scores the goals on the pitch that he has been doing this week, then all this noise will go away. He's a player that scores in bursts. He has prolific runs of goals and then he goes quiet. And I think, albeit his goals this week have been against Barnsley and Southampton, not the strongest opposition, it's confidence, isn't it? And Marcus Rashford, with confidence, is a very good footballer. So he'll hope that can be the launch pad for better form, better run of goals this season. But ultimately, I think his relationship with Ten Hag will always be one of those where there might be a little bit of friction, bit of tension, but if it delivers on the pitch for Marcus Rashford, it's good. But yeah, it'll never be more than a professional relationship.
OK, inside the Telegraph, Rashford lifestyle not right last season again, says Ten Hag. He was looking good in a central position, albeit against League One opposition in the week, Shebahn. What do you think we can learn from this, though? Is it potential that we don't know necessarily players have difficult times in their personal lives as well? It can affect them, just like all of us, I suppose?
Oh, 100%. I mean, and I feel that sometimes there are a number of fans that don't have a lot of sympathy for players who might be off the boil or might be struggling with their personal life because they get paid so much money. They shouldn't have struggles. We often hear that. You could go around the vlogs, you can go online. It's tough for players. He's 26 years old. We know that he's active on social media. He does look at criticism. That's what it would seem like. But Erik Ten Hag said today, it's up to him to show the right attitude and train well, and he will be rewarded from that. Rashford has started all 6 games, so no matter their relationship, if Rashford is putting on a professional attitude and scoring on the pitch, playing through the middles now, and is an interesting one for Rashford. He looks very, very good there in the last couple of games. Perhaps that will be the answer for him this season if Erik Ten Hag will allow that and trust that and makes that decision. But for now, this is the difference that we want to see in Marcus Rashford. And I think credit to him, he's done that himself.
Epic game coming up against Crystal Palace. So wish Marcus Rashford the best in his redemption, possibly back in the England squad at some point. Let's talk about players playing too many games. So Mark, I know you've been across this, speaking to player representatives as well. Strike back, the headline in the Mirror. Guardiola and Maresca both agree players taking action, quote unquote, not far away. Mark, on that though, the proximity or not, what do you think about that? Is it imminent?
No, it's not. And I think the reality is that the PFA, FIFPro and the players' unions of different, I think France and Spain and Italy, at the moment their priority is to deal with the legal action they've got against FIFA, which began in the summer, because they feel that FIFA have got too much control over the fixture list, and their view is that FIFA are basically unilaterally deciding what to play and when to play it, and basically crowbarring their Club World Cup into the summer. So that's the priority of the unions right now. And I don't think, it's a great headline, it's a great soundbite. All week we've been talking about what Rodri said about the players going on strike, but I think there's a reality to it whereby, let's say, for instance, the PFA got 5,000 members, and they would have to ballot their members as to whether they would go on strike. Now, clearly there's a lot of support at the top end of the game. The Champions League clubs, the top 6, the big 6 for players that are playing too much football. They are playing too much football. But if you're going to ballot your members, you have to ballot everybody, and that involves players that may be League 1, League 2. If you're a player that plays in League 2, you earn £500 a week, you've got a mortgage to pay, you've got a family to pay for. Are you going to vote to go on strike and basically give up that income while you're on strike to support multi-million footballers at the top of the game and stop them to save them from playing glamorous competitions that if you're playing for Accrington, Stanley or Newport County, you can only dream of? So I think they've had a real battle to get a critical mass of support lower down the leagues, and they would need that. They would need, a union is everybody. It's not just the small group of people at the top. So I think it's going to be difficult to get it over the line. But ultimately, the players are playing too much football. I think the one group of people we haven't heard from on this who could stop it right now are the club owners. The club owners are the ones that have signed the deals to play these competitions. They're the ones that want to take the money. They're happy with the TV deals, the prize money. So maybe the club owners should start answering the questions that are being put to the managers.
Well, I wonder about the managers and head coaches, though, as well. Shebahn, pictured in the Express, again, Pep Guardiola. Guardiola will back players taking action. We need strikers. But surely Guardiola and Enzo Maresca has been talking about this, Shebahn. Surely they could just rest players at key times, wouldn't they? But it's very difficult to rest Rodri, I suppose, is the bottom line.
Well, Rodri being the player who kind of opened up this conversation last week. I mean, he's going to win the Ballon d'Or. I mean, he's an absolutely exceptional player who has played at the highest level all season last time round and then goes on to do what he did at the Euros. Now, not every player can relate to Rodri in terms of how he's feeling with burnout. At the end of last season, he'd spoke about it as well, going into one of the finals, that he needed a rest. He'd spoken to Pep Guardiola, he needs a rest. So he's been very clear about how he feels physically and the amount of football that he has been playing. And then you get Alisson, who's doubled down on it as well. But it definitely feels like something maybe now looking forward that the players are going to have to sort out with the club, perhaps when it comes to signing a new contract. Maybe this is something that in the future will be brokered by an agent when a player is looking to get a deal with a club. I'm playing a maximum amount of games here. I'll be playing in whatever competition because, as Mark said, that it's going to be so difficult to manage everybody together to do a strike. So perhaps it becomes something within their contracts maybe in the future moving forward.
Indeed, we'll get to Erling Haaland in due course out of Manchester City, Arsenal, Mark. But is there not evidence there with players when we do see them have a rest that the performance spikes, that perhaps it's in club's best interest to maybe give them a break? We saw it in 98, 99 with Peter Schmeichel got a holiday, didn't he?
Absolutely. Erling Haaland, you're right, is the perfect example. Mo Salah is another player that had a summer break and has started the season really well. So, players do need a break. And I think, the players that play for Man City and Chelsea, they potentially could go from the Champions League final, and certainly City's case, at the end of May, an international break the following week, and then straight into the Club World Cup in America for 4 weeks, and then 3 weeks later, when it finishes, the Premier League season starts. So those players need a break. Now, is a break a full 3 weeks off and doing nothing apart from lying on the beach, or is it a break, a bit of training here and there? It's not enough. And end of that season is the World Cup as well. So the players are right. They have to find somewhere to get a break. And I think the issue right now is that the thing that's caused all the problem here, that the lightning rod, is the Club World Cup. It's a club competition that's been basically plonked in the middle of the summer when FIFA are saying, oh, well, it used to be the Confederations Cup, which was a 2-week tournament of 8 teams. This is 32 teams playing 63 games. And nobody wants it. I don't think the fans want it. I don't think the players want it. They haven't got a broadcast deal yet, so the TV companies don't seem to want it. So FIFA wants it, but I don't know who else does.
Yeah, and we all want the star players to play in those games, don't we? Vincent Kompany's talking about an allowance for players over the calendar year, club and country, how much they can play. We'll get back to this topic, I'm sure, in the near future. Let's get to the big game, though. We all want Haaland and company to play in this one. Manchester City against Arsenal, back page of The Sun. Arteta urges his hitmen to land a KO blow, with the boxing, of course, juxtaposed there. Shebahn, how important that Arsenal do go for the win on Sunday? Do you think they will?
It's huge, isn't it? It's a huge mental test for them. And missing the captain, Martin Odegaard, everything goes through him. They have to crack on with that now because he's going to be out for what looks like a couple of months. Last season, they go to the Etihad, they take a point, they beat Manchester City at home. That's a huge achievement. So I think for progression, if they can go to the Etihad and take all 3 points, I mean, that's a huge statement for where they want to go this season. But also with the likes of Odegaard being out, will we see Raheem Sterling get more of an opportunity against his former club? Is that something Arteta's going to suss out? Will it be Trossard who plays in that position and takes up more of a role? But yes, we know what Mikel Arteta does to prepare his team and how he believes in that mental strength and being prepared. I actually thoroughly enjoyed his press conference. They were talking about the amount of games played. You know, they've been away to Atalanta just a couple of days ago, so they've had one less game, one training day one less day to prepare going up ahead in this game. You know, it's been a lot for them. That's 3 away games over the last week. If they can go take up 3 points, I mean, I have to say it's looking like it could be their season if that happens.
It'd be a big win, wouldn't it, Mark? Rodri questioned Arsenal's intent back in March, didn't he, when they went to the Etihad and seemingly were happy for the draw. Do you think that perhaps a point is better this time, just the context, as Shebahn says, the injuries and the way the fixtures have played out?
It's a tough one because City are 2 points ahead, I think, already. And even now at this early stage, you don't want to give City any kind of advantage or lead. And I think from Arsenal's perspective, I think you're at the stage now where they've been knocking on the door for 2 seasons. They've been runners-up twice. Last season, they went to City to avoid losing. I think this time they've got to go there to win. Now, they might not do that, but I think it's a statement. It shows, I think this Arsenal team needs to show that they can win at Liverpool, they can win at Man City. And I think last season they didn't really go for it. They've got to do that now. If they're going to win the title, they have to win the games that they didn't win last season. It's all right beating the teams you're expected to beat, but these are the games you have to win. Go to the Etihad and really, really try and take advantage of the chance you've got to, lay a marker down. But I'm just not quite sure they're ready for it yet.
Kept 2 big clean sheets this week, thanks to David Raya, of course, and the centre-half Saliba and Gabriel, who Jamie Carragher writes in The Telegraph, on the cusp of joining greats. Do you agree, Shebahn? Do they need to get some trophies first, or are they already there in terms of a partnership?
There's no doubt they're absolutely brilliant players. I've got no concerns over that. But yeah, I think if they can win the Premier League this season, they're right in about there with no other concern.
What do you think, Mark, about the partnership, Saliba and Gabriel? You've got Terry pictured there, I think Carvalho as well, Vidic and Ferdinand. People might go back to Bruce Pallister, Adams and Bold.
Yeah, all those partnerships you mentioned, they had longevity and they won trophies season after season, year after year. So I think that is the measuring stick, isn't it? I think as good as they are, as promising they are, they haven't actually won anything apart from an FA Cup. What would it have been 3 or 4 years ago now? So yeah, we can kind of rush to bestow greatness on players at times of partnerships, and they've got all the attributes, but they've got to win something. If they don't win anything in the next 2 or 3 years, Arsenal, this partnership will be forgotten about. That is the reality, that if they don't put trophies on the table, nobody will be talking about Saliba and Gabriel in years to come. So they have to win something. They have to win big trophies to back that up.
OK, let's talk about the man they'll be facing then, presumably Erling Haaland, who's had a summer off, 36 days, Shebahn. And Jason Burt's written a brilliant feature in The Telegraph. Haaland steps up a level after taking off his socks. The other side of that is pictured meditating seemingly or doing yoga in a Norwegian river in the summer. How revealing is this about the power of rest and indeed psychology for Erling Haaland?
It's everything, isn't it? We've heard from a number of his players around him just how focused and how committed he is. His off days are spent in ice baths. You know, he's all about his recovery. But that's incredible when we're talking about that strike there. And we look at what Haaland's done so far this season with 9 goals, going for what could be his 100th goal for Manchester City at the weekend. And he finished up on the 8th of June and reported in for training on the 13th of July. And we saw it on social media. He's DJing in clubs. The guy's having the best time ever. He's out on the yacht. He's living the life, and he's had that time to himself. So this barefoot thing, taking the socks off, is one you might want to try, Mark and Teddy. It's called grounding. Barefoot on the ground, it helps pick up the Earth's surface electrons. He will do anything if it means he's going to better his performance. So do you know what? Let him crack on. He's going to go far. But yeah, I mean, wonderful stuff. And we're talking about Rashford there. I mean, even him being off at the summer and, you know, being out of the Euros squad. We're talking about strikes. There's a number of players who have had that rest and seem to have been benefiting from it. And Haaland is definitely one of them.
OK, take my shoes off, head out onto the grass outside the studios in the near future. Shebahn and Mark, thank you very much for now. It's good enough for Haaland, it's good enough for everyone, isn't it? We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at more of the back pages, including this in the Times, all about the boxing for them. Last shot at glory for AJ. You are watching Back Pages tonight. Welcome back to you, and welcome back to ESPN senior writer Mark Ogden and TalkSPORT presenter Shebahn Aherne. Let's go then to the Times. Last shot at glory. Anthony Joshua, the Olympic champion from 2012, looking to become a 3-time world champion. He's done it all, Mark, hasn't he? But how much pressure is on AJ tomorrow night in front of this epic crowd?
Yeah, 96,000 people at Wembley. It's an amazing turnout, and I think that's the one thing that, you know, when the fighters go to Saudi to have their bouts, it does seem to lack the atmosphere that we're going to get at Wembley tomorrow. So, but you're right. I mean, AJ has been there and thereabouts. He's had great success, but you know, he's always fallen short in the biggest fights, apart from the Klitschko fight. So the pressure's on him. But as we've seen, you know, boxers do come back. They come back time after time after time. But I think on this occasion, if he doesn't beat Dubois, then I think that could be it. But you never say that with boxing, do you? Because I'm sure there's a fight with Tyson Fury down the line somewhere.
How intriguing is it, Shebahn, as well? Because it's not 2 undefeated fighters, is it? There's an air of vulnerability about both men, which I suppose adds to it in a way.
Certainly. 2 Englishmen who have their faults and have had their flaws along the way. But AJ seems to just fully believe in himself. Listen at that press conference, his words were, "I want blood and guts and glory." That's what he's going for from this fight. 18 stone, he's 4 pounds heavier than Daniel Dubois, which is interesting. And Dubois is at his heaviest of his career so far. But you mentioned there, Mark, about the opportunity down the line of taking on, say, Tyson Fury. I actually think this fight for AJ is about stepping out of the shadows that he's been in of the Gypsy King for the last few years. I mean, Wembley, 96,000 is absolutely incredible. And I think AJ's the kind of man who can absolutely handle that. I mean, you've got to look at the past when he was in his heyday, 2016 to 2019, that fight against Vladimir Klitschko, 2017 was the height of AJ. Can he find himself back to that? I definitely think a Wembley crowd would help him over the line. And for Daniel Dubois, he's a heavy-handed fighter. He's a brilliant prospect. He's been doing well, certainly over the last year. And you think back to that fight against Usyk, that was a questionable win because it was the low blow, wasn't it, which was debatable at the same time. So it's going to be a great fight. Looking forward to this one.
Absolutely. Usyk will be in attendance as well. Look forward to the fight. Let's talk Ange Postecoglou and Tottenham ahead of Brentford. And he says do some yoga to his critics, or the critics of Dominic Solanke. Mark, what do you make of Ange Postecoglou's energy and mood at the moment? You might advise Solanke to do some yoga after reading the Haaland piece.
You know, I've spoken to some Tottenham fans. There's a bit of a split on Postecoglou. And I think a lot of it stretches back to last season when we had the situation with the Man City game when he basically disagreed with the fans who wanted Tottenham to lose. But I think it's kind of skating on thin ice a little bit when you start, you know, questioning the fans' judgment or questioning criticism. He just seems to be having a go at people at the moment and seems to be shrugging his shoulders at things that people care passionately about. And I think the performance last week against Arsenal wasn't great either. I was stuck on a train platform on the way back to Euston last week, and there was a lot of complaints about Postecoglou's tactics. So I just think he needs to turn the narrative around a little bit, because he's becoming a little bit whingy, and I think that isn't the best place to be if you're a coach and you've got results that are going against you. So yeah, maybe he needs to do some yoga rather than Solanke.
What's frustrating him, Shebahn? Do you think it is the questions from the press, or is it the fact that maybe the standards are so high in the Premier League, and even in the League Cup midweek he had a challenge?
Oh my goodness. I mean, the press are absolutely at it. They're complete wind up sometimes. I mean, he says, I win trophies in my second year. Proven, if the three places that he's won trophies in his second season. And then he answered that question, and now it's come back to haunt him, because at the minute it looks like it's going to be the chips are down if they want to win a trophy. But they did get the job done against Coventry, and Coventry are no mugs. They're not. They were the story of the Cup last season, but they got the job done. But fans expect so much from Tottenham Hotspur, and actually they should. They're a massive club. They should be fighting on multiple fronts, and they have to win something. Now, I'm all for Ange Postecoglou, and I think he's a brilliant manager, and I love the way he speaks to the press. I think he's incredible. And actually, what he called for in this press conference as well is consideration over criticism. That's when it comes to Solanke. That's when it comes to fans and the backlash that he's having at the minute. You're 4 games in the Premier League. 8 games in the Premier League last season. The Tottenham Hotspur Stadium was the place you went to chill out because you were having the best time. But one thing I will say, Ange, is when people are annoyed, don't tell them to calm down and do some yoga. That'll just make them even more mad.
No, a lot of people love yoga as well. Tottenham against Brentford. What do you reckon, Mark? Does a lot hinge on Solanke's form? You've got about 15, 20 seconds in terms of Ange's future.
Go, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, Solanke, look, I mean, he started the season with an injury. He's a different player to Harry Kane was, for instance. And he worked the Arsenal defenders last week, but it's a tough start for him, and I think he needs a goal. And I think Postecoglou needs him to score a goal, and everyone will be happy they can abandon the yoga for a bit longer.
Give us a prediction quickly before you go, Mark. Shebahn, you first. City, Arsenal, what do you think?
Arsenal 2-1.
Mark?
Man City 2-0.
Oh, there we go. Split camp at the end. Brilliant to have you on, Shebahn and Mark. We'll see you again soon. If you missed any of the show, another chance to see Back Pages tonight at hour. Also available as a podcast. Back Pages on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast.